I really value, the guy that you are, and I want to bring you on today because I see how you are amongst not just me, but multiple people that we're around, and just anybody you meet in contact. You're the type of guy who never meets a stranger. You're always looking, you're always looking forward to, bringing the levity in any situation. And it seems like you're not really concerned about the rejection. So that's definitely my speculation. But kind of tell the people, how do you go into a relationship or go into meeting people overall?
I don't know. I think there are certain expectations when you talk about rejection in particular. I think there is a lot of fear around that, right? When you do go into these things, and you don't know what people are going to think about you, and I think that's actually kind of a really common thing that does occur for not just people, or not just in relationships, but just in general, as you go about your day-to-day life, what I mean? It's just am I, I hear people talk about all the time, it's just they're acutely aware of how fast their windshield wipers are going compared to everyone else's, you know what I mean? It's this really distinct, I want to kind of follow in that social norm, right? I don't want to ruffle feathers if I don't have to, that kind of thing. I'm
that guy. I wouldn't say don't want to ruffle feathers, but I do notice if my windshield wiper's going faster than other people. For some reason, I think about it. I'm like, that's too much. I'm gonna pull it back just a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. See, and I guess in that sense, I'll usually just turn mine full blast. You know what I mean? Every time, and just kind of let it go. And not because I'm kind of thinking how to put it. There's a sense of essentially me not necessarily caring whether or not I am accepted by strangers, right? And so when you think about like you said earlier, I don't necessarily, I've never met a stranger kind of thing. Well, it's just the idea is that obviously I have met strangers, but really it's just this. I just have a willingness to just not necessarily see them in a light of somebody that I would necessarily need to impress, right, or conform to. There's obvious things, I'm not an absolute insane person, you know what I mean,
right,
that meets a new person is just a total jerk or anything like that. I try not to be, obviously I try and understand where they're at, you know what I mean, and not go too far into something like that. But for the most part, I think it really just kind of comes with that. I'm not necessarily afraid of people rejecting me, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure really where it comes from. I know that a lot of because there's this idea of nature versus nurture kind of thing, right? And I know that my dad, when I think about him, and we've had this conversation before, right?
Yeah.
Literally. So he was always very kind of a charismatic guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was always out there. We would have these family reunions. He was the oldest of all of his brothers and sisters, right? And he would be out there in these at our family reunions with all the cousins and everything. And it was we had a large, pretty big family. And he would be the one organizing the games, right? He would bring the stuff for the games. Right. He was always kind of the life of the party there. And I think that whether I adopted that on knowingly, I think it was just kind of part of that environment, right? That I kind of eventually saw, okay, this is what a person does. This is what my dad is doing. Therefore, this is kind of what I would expect a guy or a man to kind of be. He was kind of my first example. And I think I took a lot of that from him.
I mean, yeah, it definitely makes sense. And I have this theory, and I think I may have picked it up somewhere, that most children, get their confidence, from their father, And when you think about some of the most people that are insecure, whether it be in a large group or meeting others or any avenue in their life, and they lacking confidence, you can kind of tie to the relationship they have with their father. When you hear that, what comes up for you?
I definitely can see that. I think that there, like kind of what we're talking about, nature versus nurture. I think that it's not really a versus as much as it is like they play on one another. You know what I mean? And there's all kinds of theories in like genetics. I don't know. I'm not a geneticist, but I know that they talk about like how if you're predisposed to a certain genetic formation, some people that are in X environment may be more likely for that to activate in their lives than people that are in Y environment. You know what I mean? And so I think that like your parents especially are in those formative years such a integral part of like everything you do. Like I think about like my kids, right? They don't have a whole lot of say in what we do on a day-to-day basis because we're trying to get things done, right? They're kind of there for the ride. But as they grow older, they're gonna base a lot of the stuff on their experiences, and their experiences are like with us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it kind of like takes that and kind of pushes it forward a little bit, I think. And I think that, like you're saying, like that confidence level, I think, yeah, you're probably right. Like it probably does come from the father, and the lack of confidence, I think, can also do that too, right? Depending on your father's maybe availability, or even the way that they would either build you up or tear you down, right? And it's kind of surprising, like how some things might stick and some things won't. Like there's like childhood memories that I have, and it's just kind of like it did form an impact on me, but I don't think it was almost like the opposite of what, you know what I mean, that I saw. Like I saw this happen and it wasn't good, so it's like, oh, I want to change that, and then vice versa, I saw this happen and it does seem good, and so I want to adopt that, and I think that your parents, for the most part, really set that tone. And I think that no matter what really happens in your life, it's really difficult to like almost get out of that. Like I think you can get out of it, right? Get out of this idea, but you have this expectation set by your parents of these are what parents are, right? And so eventually, when you get your life to that same point, you start evaluating that, right? Yeah. And you start almost acting like, everyone talks about like you're destined to become your father, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? But you start to evaluate that and start to see like, oh, this is why they did this, or this is why they did that, right? And even now, like I've come to have a much like better understanding of like why my parents did certain things that they did. Yeah. Whether or not I agreed with them or not, it's like I kind of see now there's like a parallel that I can now like bring because I'm experiencing parenthood,
Yeah. Man, that's amazing. It sounds like you are able to have that balance between the things that you should, bring to this generation and the things that you leave back. A lot of people struggle with that whole, they talk about generational curses, talk about things that bad habits or whatever. Yeah. And some people gravitate to them and bring them forward, but it sounds like you are taking more of the positive things that Dad had to offer, or the things that he implemented, and some of them not really forced things, just things you're doing by, seem like osmosis, it seems like.